So why do so many parents have regrets? Why do so many parents have regrets? What are regrets? Regrets are basically you're sad or disappointed over something that's already happened or a missed opportunity. And so I'm asking you, why is it? Why is it that so many of us have regrets? What I really believe it is that it comes down to we're just busy. We're moving and shaking, really just busy, caught up in the busyness of life. And then you look back and wow, a week has passed, a month has passed, another year has passed. And you see your kids growing up and you're like, wow, I have some regrets. There's some missed opportunities. And so one of the things I want you to understand is that treasured memories is what it's all about. When you look back on your childhood, when you reflect back then, what are some memories that you have? What are some memories that you have? The reason why I'm asking this question is because I believe memories, treasured memories, is what adds spice to life. So what are some of the memories that you have? I know for me, I remember family vacations. My brother Sean and I would be in the back seat and we'd drive from Maryland up to Detroit. My dad's from Detroit, Michigan. And on those road trips, I'll never forget, just to go see family up there, we drive and just to pass time, right? We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have the little iPod or iPads. We didn't have any of that. And so we made our fun was basically seeing who could count the most out-of-state license plates on other cars. That's what we did, straight up. And so it was fun. And you know what I really appreciate about the good old days, without these cell phones and whatnot, you had to get creative. You had to get creative because right now so many kids are just in their cell phones, just doing their thing. And it's kind of like isolation in a way. And so one of the things that I really enjoy about, our family trips when I was young and my brother Sean, we'd be looking out the window, seeing who could see what out-of-state license plate tags. And it was fun. It passed time. One of the other things, when I think about my mom, I think about how she was a educator, full-time, teacher and math teacher. And it was amazing how, as I really look back, every morning, every single morning, my mother made a hot cooked breakfast and it was delicious. And then every evening we would have dinner. And I started thinking about it. I was like, wow, here she's working, a long, full 8-hour day, but yet she gets up early and she would make breakfast for her sons and her husband and herself. And then at night, after a long day of work, she would still make a nice, hot cooked, delicious dinner. And that is a memory I will always cherish. And I tell my mom, even to this day, she's still alive. And I share with her that, wow, Mom, I just really want to say thank you. Because, here I am, I'm juggling life, right? And it's moving fast. But for her to make that commitment really means a lot to me. Another treasured memory is my dad. My dad really taught me the value of doing your best. And I'll never forget, I had one report card that didn't go so well. Okay, I was in college, and I'll never forget that, I came home and I got the report card, and I had even failed a class and got a D- in another, and ooh, ouch. And so I had a 1.6 GPA, and I remember when I got that, I knew it was coming. And when I got the letter from University of Virginia with, my grades, I went, opened up the envelope, and sure enough, I had prayed though. I was like, God, if there's any way we can make the, my grades go up, knowing I had failed one class and got a D- in another, I said, if there's any way, God, help me. And so I remember opening up the envelope, went into my room, opened it up, and I was like, okay, there it is, 1.6 GPA. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, how am I going to explain this to my parents? And so my mother, was more of let's just say she was more supportive and, a little bit softer than my dad. My dad was a disciplinarian. And so I'll never forget, I went into my kitchen. My mother was in the kitchen. And I said, Mom, I did really good last year. And, I've been really good. I haven't gotten into trouble, trying to soften her up, right? And I said, Mom, but listen, things happen. And I got my report card. She said, oh, great, Marlon, let me see your report card. I said, well, before you see it, just remember, last year, I got all A's and B's, right? And she's like, oh yeah, I know. Let me see this. Let me see this semester. I said, okay, Mom. But, again, I'm a good kid. I've done really good. And so I give her my report card, and she looks at it. She said, ooh, 1.6. Okay. Have you told your dad? I said, no. Well, I was thinking maybe you could tell him, Mom. She said, no. You got to tell him. I said, okay. And so my dad was in their bedroom, and I never forget, I was walking down the hallway. It's like, whew, dead man walking, right? I was walking all slow, and I just gently knocked on his door, and thinking that he was asleep or hoping he was asleep, but he said, oh, come on in. And I said, well, Dad, I can come back later. We can talk later. He said, no, come on in, Marlon. And so I came in and I said, okay, Dad, I have my report card. He said, oh, let me see it. And he was laying on his bed at the time, reading a book. And I said, well, no, I can come back later. You're reading a book. No worries. And I said, no, let me see it. And he sits up on the edge of his bed. And I said, okay. And I said, Dad, remember, I got all A's and B's last, marking period. And I did really well. I don't get in trouble. Again, I'm trying to soften him up, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen. And he said, oh, well, I understand that. Yeah, you're a great son. Let me see it. And so I handed it to him. And I remember like stepping back, right? Because, I said, hey, I'm a college student. I'm too old to get a whooping, right? But in my mind, I was like, man, I know, they pay money for me to go to college. Here, I got a 1.6 GPA. And so I'll never forget, I handed it to him. I stepped back, not knowing what he was going to do. And I was really kind of tense. And I remember him looking at it, and he looked up at me and he said, did you do your best? And I thought this was like some kind of Jedi, question, like, did I do my best? What's he talking about? I said, well, excuse me? He said, did you do your best? I said, and I started, stumbling. He said, well, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go into my bathroom. I want you to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, did I do my best? I was like, okay. And I remember I said, I was still a little scared and a little nervous. And so instead of me turning around and walking towards, his bathroom, I walked backwards, right? Not knowing, if he's going to get up, if this was like some Jedi trick, he's going to, I didn't know what was going to happen. So I walked backwards. Okay, Dad, okay. And I'm walking backwards, and I get to his bathroom, and I stand in front of the mirror, and I said, did I do my best? Did I do my best? Did I do my best? And I remember as I'm looking in my eyes, all of a sudden tears start coming down my face. And I said, oh man, did I do my best? No. And I felt shame. I felt sadness, because here they had spent their money to have me go to college, and I didn't do my best academically. And I remember just wiping the tears, and I came back into his bedroom, and there he was, just sitting on the edge of the bed, and he said, so what do you say, Marlon? I said, Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't do my best. I got distracted. And he said, okay. He said, I just want you to always be able to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, did I do my best? That experience has lived with me for the rest of my life. That was a treasured memory. And yeah, it was scary at first, but I got the lesson. The lesson is to be able to say to myself, I did my best. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because why do so many parents have regrets? I think it's because we miss those treasured opportunities, those times when we can connect. Life doesn't always go the way we want. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. But it's in those low points, that's when there's opportunity to learn. That's an opportunity to learn. I just had a conversation with my daughter just yesterday, and I was telling her, some things didn't go as planned. And I said, Jade, in life, there's going to be ups and downs. And the question you have to ask yourself, did I do my best? And once you've done your best, that's all you can do. Here's something that my dad taught me when I was like her age. Maybe I was a year older than her. But I was, a young, teenager, and I was able to share the lesson that my dad taught me. And so what I'm sharing with you is, don't miss those special moments when you can connect with your child. Because once that moment is gone, it's gone. And so I wanted to just share that with you. And so my invitation for you is, what are you going to do within the next 24 hours to connect with your child? Maybe it's go for a walk. Maybe it's you just sharing, who you are and some of your life decisions and some lessons you've learned. Maybe it's having a movie night, right? Maybe it's cooking a family meal together. I don't know what it is, but again, time keeps on moving. And the thing is that we want to make sure that we make the most of our time with our loved ones, and especially our children. So I wanted to share this with you, and excited to hear your feedback. Go ahead and like this YouTube channel, share your feedback with us. Go ahead and post some comments, and you can even share, what are you taking away from today's message? Because again, why do so many parents have regrets? I think it's because we miss those opportunities, and then we look back like, that was an opportunity. That was an opportunity for me to grow closer to my child or my children. So I look forward to connecting with you. Once again, I am Marlon Smith, reminding you there's greatness within you. Live with purpose, because your success is your choice. Stay blessed.